Have you ever been hit hard by your past?
Ouch!
What was that for?
It was for your special video about getting hit by a pass.
No, you idiot. It's past. Like with the T, past, present, future. Where'd you even get that ball anyway?
Found it. You want to go get another one?
No, please don't.
Got it.
Okay, can we just do the video?
If you say so.
And action. Have you ever been hit hard by your past? Wait, no! What's up, everyone? As you may have noticed, I am not here with you this week, and now I know most of you are probably cheering uncontrollably right now, but if you could just simmer down for a second, contain your excitement, cool it for a moment, I'll tell you where I'm at. No, I'm sure you're super bummed that I'm gone, but I'm actually spending this week in Nashville at a kids ministry conference talking about volunteers, and definitely missing you all, and am excited to be back for next week. But this week is exciting because we're starting a brand new series called The Have and Have Nots, and we're talking about comparison and identity, which I think is so important to talk about. Like, if I had to guess, I'd guess that you've already compared yourself with at least one other person today, if not dozens. Like, whether it's their stuff, their looks, their skills, or their popularity, like, it's hard not to notice all the things that other people have and how those things compare to all the things that we wish we had. But in this series, I want to remind us all that we are uniquely made by God, that we have a past, that we have today, and we have a future, which all make you valuable and uniquely you. And even though it's possible that we've heard that all before, like, it's still easy to compare. Like, have you ever found yourself looking at someone's big, beautiful house and just wishing that it was yours? Or wishing that you could get the new iPhone, or those clothes, or that car, or that game, or you name it. Like, we all dream about the things we want someday, and there's nothing wrong with dreaming. But sometimes our dreams reveal less about who we actually are, and more about who we think we need to be to compare and keep up with others, and that's dangerous. Like, it's easy to have thoughts like, oh, my life isn't that exciting, successful, or as fun as other people's, or I'm not as interesting, popular, or attractive as everyone else, or, you know what, the real me isn't even good enough. And you see, when we feel inadequate, sometimes we create these false versions of ourselves and pretend to be someone we're not in hopes of being accepted and loved to find value. Like, have you ever found yourself doing this? Like that story you told about that cool thing you did, it was impressive, but it was a bit of a stretch if you're honest. And that selfie you just posted, like, it looks pretty effortless and candid, but it took 25 takes and you had to Google really good caption ideas first. Or maybe that joke that you laughed at, you didn't really get it, or you thought it was dumb because, well, it probably was. But you laughed anyway because you wanted the person who said it to like you, and so you just played along. And I get it. Like, it's so easy to pretend to be someone we're not when we're afraid we can't measure up to all the stuff or skills or popularity other people seem to have. But for the next few weeks, like, I want to help you think about who you are in a new way and focus less on what you think you don't have so that you can better see what you already have. And so let's talk about the first thing that each of us has and why it's so valuable. And the first thing is this: you have a past. And that might sound a little intimidating. Like, a lot of times I think when we hear someone say, you have a past, it's not a good thing, and it means that you've got some baggage or secrets. But the truth is, we all have a past. Like, that's just a fact. You didn't just appear out of thin air just now, and if you did, that'd be super cool, and I definitely have some follow-up questions. But having a past just means you have a history, and your history is part of you. And sometimes we don't like to own our past because our story is too painful or messy or too boring or ordinary, or our story feels incomplete, or we just straight up, like, want someone else's story. And now, if that sounds familiar, I promise you, you're not the only one. In the second book of the Bible, Exodus, we read about a guy named Moses. And Moses had a crazy life. Like, he was born a Hebrew into the nation that was enslaved by Egypt. But when the Pharaoh ordered all Hebrew baby boys be drowned in the Nile because he was so insecure and afraid of being taken over, Moses' mom put him in a basket and floated him down the river to where Pharaoh's daughter found him and raised Moses as her own. And some other things that we know about Moses is that he probably had a stutter, that he murdered an Egyptian soldier that he saw beating a Hebrew slave, and he ran away and fled the country out of fear for his life. And maybe some of Moses' stories sound familiar to you, like being adopted or feeling like an outcast, like you don't fit in or you aren't able to do what you're called to, or being angry, running away. Like, maybe you resonate with Moses. Or maybe none of those stories sound familiar because your family, childhood, and story so far are pretty average. But whether you think you share similarities with Moses or not, there's at least one part of Moses' story that I think we can all relate to in some way, and that's this. Sometimes we run from our past. And maybe sometimes you're ashamed of your family, or you wish that you had a different childhood, or wish you had different skills, friends, opportunities, or things that you had as a kid. Or maybe you're just haunted by something that you did, or something that was done to you. But thankfully, we serve the God of redemption and restoration. Because what we'll see as we continue this series is how God used what happened in Moses' past to do something good in Moses' present and future. Like as an adopted kid with a stutter in a culture that wasn't his, and Moses, he likely felt isolated and different. And after some of the mistakes that he made, big and small, he likely felt ashamed and defined by his past behavior. But that's not how his story ends. God wanted Moses to understand that he can redeem and restore even our biggest mistakes and continue to use us in the present to make a difference in the future. And I just want to remind you tonight that your story isn't over. Like you are not permanently defined by your past. Like Moses, we have to understand that we don't have to run from our past, but we can instead find joy in the good parts and ask God to redeem the rest. Because yes, like you do have a past. But remember, your past is valuable because it's helped shape who you are. And the ugly or disappointing parts, they don't have to define who you are in the future. And let me just be honest with you all. Like, I know I've failed at this in my life. I've let mistakes in my past define my present and affect my future. I've let them echo and linger for way too long. And even though I can't change what happened, I can change how I react to it. I can accept the grace and forgiveness of God and let Him continue to shape me into the person that He created me to be, rather than cling to shame and let sin define me and hold me back. And that's what I want for you. I want you to realize that, yes, you have a past, but rather than dwelling on the brokenness in it, let's remember God's faithfulness through it. And let God use those defining moments from our past to impact your future. Like maybe your past, like Moses, is painful or challenging. Maybe you feel shame about something that you've done or hurt because of something that was done to you. But hear this, your story matters. And on the other hand, maybe your past is pretty average feeling. Maybe you feel some embarrassment about that, actually, especially when you hear people's Moses-like stories. But let me just say, your story doesn't need to be dramatic to be important. Your story matters too. And the truth is, we can't become who God wants us to be if we don't get honest about how we became the people we are today. Like knowing who we are begins with understanding our history. And to understand our past fully, we need to be able to articulate our history, like where we were born, where we grew up, what our childhood was like, our heroes, like who the people are that have impacted you and are influential for you, our hurts, like what are some challenging life events that have shaped you, and also our hopes, like what do you love to do and who do you want to become. And that's what we're going to spend some time doing today. Or if you're watching later, like feel free to participate on your own. But we're all going to grab some paper and write down some of our history, our heroes, our hurts, and our hopes. And I want you to write a letter to your future self that you open back up at the end of this school year. Like I want you to think about your past and how you want to use that to help develop you in the future. Like write down who you hope to become this school year, like how you hope to get there and what you hope to accomplish. And then at the end of the school year, we'll come back to these letters and just see your transformation. Because when it comes right down to it, we can't always know why our past has happened the way that it has. But when we decide to fully understand and embrace our past, we can better understand how our past has shaped us for the better and then thank God for it. We can better understand how our past has been complicated and painful or harmful to us and then ask God to redeem it. And then we can model for others how they can know, value, and still be redeemed from their pasts. Like no matter what kind of past you've had, I know God is not going to waste it. God wants to use every aspect of your past, like the good and the bad, to do something beautiful in the world. And so as we get ready to break into groups and write our letters, I want you to remember these two things. And the first is this: your past has shaped you, but the negative parts, they don't have to define you. Like your past isn't the end of your story. And then two, your past has value because God can use, redeem, and transform every piece of it if you'll just let Him. Me how far away you are, and that you're using one hand for maximum power.
Okay. We're rolling.
Okay, 3, 2, 1. Oh, you missed, you jerk! I'm gonna kind of turn and wince and try to get me.
Go this way just a tad. Yeah, there you
Okay. Dead in the face?
Right.
Yeah, I
right
got you.
There. Not straight on the nose. Eye.
Eh.
go. We just want a broken orbital bone.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
That was good.
Yeah, that was so good. Ouch! All right.